she's such a priss. All right. My name is Thomas Zachary, and this is the next episode of the KAAMP. It has been a minute since I sat down and done one of these because I've been taking it a little slower at the end of the year. But today we're doing the thing, and I have a wonderful guest across the super secret studio, aka not my living room, from me. And if this friend of mine would introduce herself, that would be excellent.
Hey, I am Mallory Cowan, and I am a painter, and I'm glad to be here.
That's an excellent introduction. So, Mallory, you had a good day. Yeah, you worked and did the thing.
I
We
did.
did all the adult, responsible, societal, contractual things that we're supposed to do, and now we're here.
I did. Yeah. Served the people.
Served the people, fulfilled our contract to society.
I did.
um, so what kind of art things do you get into? You said painter, but what does painter mean to you?
Yeah, so I got my undergrad degree, a BFA in painting, right here at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville.
Woot woot.
And during that time, I fell in love with abstract painting and in art school they kind of push you to have
Not
all
that.
this esoteric meaning behind your work, and I spent a long time trying to figure out what my work was about, but I ultimately ended up starting to paint cellular type structures. My dad was diagnosed with lung cancer when I was finishing my degree, and I eventually was kind of, mentored into fueling my creativity through that because I was very consumed by that at the time.
As one gets.
Right. And so I started looking at cells under microscopes and stuff like that. And over time, it's evolved to what I've called biological landscapes. So, taking the inner workings of what makes up our universe and all the elements and playing with just the shapes that make those things up and really exploding them in color. And so that is the 5 minute sales pitch I've kind of narrowed down.
Because we're
Um,
supposed to have one of those for some reason.
yeah, it does make a lot more sense when you see what I'm talking about next to my words, but yeah, sacred geometry and the inner workings of, how our insides reflect the outside world has always been of interest to me as far as art making goes. Once I channel in, it kind of all flows, and there's not always a end plan, but there's usually some significant starting point from which it grows.
And that's how long have you been working in that style,
Um,
or developing that, or however you want to put it?
I'd say about 15 years now.
Okay, and it pleases you enough till you stick with it.
It is it is set. I've found what's comfortable. I found what keeps me motivated and excited, and it involves using every color in my crayon box. And there's no endless inspiration when, geometry and all these things make up our world everywhere.
Yeah, it's
So,
everywhere you look.
yeah.
So, do you remember the first time you arted?
It's funny you say that. Yes, I've said for my entire life I knew I was going to be an artist since the first time I held a crayon.
Ooh,
Um yeah, I have memories of just always being excited when the art supplies came out. And my mom would let me get the 98 pack of
the
crayons
big boy
with
with
the
the
sharpener.
sharpener. Yes, I know.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, the sharpener's clutch.
But the deal was I had to share.
Mm.
And I always had a hard time with people that would mistreat my art supplies,
Absolutely.
like mashed down on the marker or
Then your nib disappears, and it's like, what the fuck? That's
yeah,
terrible.
yeah. And I think in hindsight, can probably bring my therapist to the table on this. That's where some of my OCD tendencies started. So,
Well, at least you're aware. That's a
yes,
big part of this.
self awareness has not been something I've lacked. Dealing with it and the skills too were a long time coming, but we're getting there. So.
So, what was the first thing you arted? If you can remember, like the specific thing is more of what my question is aimed at.
Yeah, well, I can remember there's a great story about probably my first piece, and it's somewhere in my mom's attic. Maybe later for reference, we can grab a photo of it. But I don't know if you remember, I grew up in the 90s, so we did these plates in preschool, and you would draw on a kind of like I don't know, a paper that was super transparent, but the words escaping me right now. And then you would mail it off and it would come back as a plate and it would be an often Mother's Day gift or something like that. And for listener context, I am just a white female from the suburbs of Memphis. And I drew a portrait of my family, my mom, my dad, my little brother, and myself. And I had, more developed art skills than most kids my age. So the bodies were they looked like full bodies, and if you reference, like the children's developmental stages,
Yeah,
like I definitely was
how they draw
clear.
people is very indicative of where.
Yes, and I my master's degree is in art education, so I taught elementary art for a while, so it's
We'll get there.
fascinating. Well, yeah, and it's fascinating to see that in hindsight to my own art skills. But I drew my whole family, and my dad, he was a golfer, he was a pilot, and he traveled a lot, and he was extremely tan, like
Oh well,
really, really, really
golfers.
tan. Yeah, and because he flew to Puerto Rico a lot as well, so he would
Mm,
go down there, golf, come back. Well, so I drew my mom, my brother, and me with the apricot colored
yeah,
marker,
yeah.
and
Hey, that was the skin tone.
yes, and I used the brown one for my dad. Well, my dad, being a person that traveled a lot, they never saw him pick me up from preschool.
Oh no!
And I'm
I
this
like where this is
little
going.
light blonde haired girl with green eyes, and my mom, and she comes to pick me up, and they present her with the plate, and they're like, and her dad.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, the
And we
dad.
just, who is dad? Again, this is the 90s. Times are different. We're in, the South, and nothing came of it, but they were confused
the
why I did not match the picture. But my mom died. She died laughing because she understood exactly what it was.
yeah.
I perceived the colors that I saw, and so that is, I think, the first indication of
So dad was tan as shit. Everybody at school had no idea.
yes. Yes, but it's a great plate.
Oh
So
man, that's so good.
yeah,
Bless their ignorance.
yeah. They I guess they just didn't know what he looked like, but
Oh,
he
that's
was
so
as
good.
tan as could be.
So from the crayons and the colored pencils, if you could march us through your adventure through mediums up until where your formal education started in art. So where did you play with your mediums up until college?
Absolutely. I definitely I remember all through middle school, we had the explosion of gel pens.
Oh, tell me about it.
And I always loved the opacity and drawing with those. So I think that piqued an interest in what you can do to manipulate watercolor and gouache. That and that being, one of the more accessible painting options for high school students.
Yeah, for sure.
I went to a really, well funded private school. And so I had no shortage of nice supplies around me, and I got a real great opportunity to explore, through Art 1 all the way through AP Art. And a great teacher that we just kind of out crazied each other, but she showed me that initial spark as to what it is to, like, if you're going to be an artist, then you just got to dive all in. So a lot of watercolor um and gouache and acrylic paint and stuff like that. I remember my AP big project, whatever we had to do, was definitely all paint related. Um and then when it came to college, they kind of let you start it all out. I don't know, I just fell in love with paint. I think back to the crayons, to the markers, being able to fill in solid color in ways that strictly came from my hand, I enjoyed. I think, um, the way I felt about drawing classes, I wish I had given more attention and dedication, but it just never held my interest.
Yeah.
I relate it to math class, and I've always said it when people say I don't know I can't draw, and it's like drawing is the most learnable aspect of art.
Yeah.
It comes down to mathematic formula, and so I never really just enjoyed it that much. I do love to doodle and stuff like that, but it
Well,
always
sometimes a pencil or a pen is the closest thing at hand, and that just has to do.
and that could always occupy my time.
Yeah.
As long as I had a blank piece of paper and a pen, I can keep myself and my brain occupied. And
Side question:
yes,
does a blank page excite or terrify you?
it excites me.
It excites you.
Yeah.
So a lack of context or boundaries is something you take delight in.
Ooh, that's a loaded question.
Well, okay. So some people when they have what's the word, guardrails or some kind of confined idea, they work more efficiently in communicating whatever it is, and then some folks are more comfortable to craft the guardrails around their idea as they go. So some folks enjoy the blank page, some folks like some rules or constrictions on whatever the idea is when they get started. It's I've had people be on both sides of this fence for lots and lots of reasons. So it's one of those distinctions I like to make with people.
Totally. So I can say this for sure. A blank rectangular surface gives me anxiety. A blank square or circular surface is a safe starting point for me. So I definitely think the proportions of the blankness in front of
Well,
me.
that's definitely the first time I've had that distinction put on me like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think I've learned throughout the years what little hacks help me from being held back. And definitely, like, in my brain right now, I'm seeing like a really well primed 3x5 canvas that I worked really hard on. And there's one from college still sitting in my spare bedroom right now that I've carried around for years because it's something about starting it on that proportion.
Yeah.
That would be where I need a parameter.
Okay.
That being said, I do start most of my pieces with some sort of loose hexagonal shape,
Mm-hmm.
and that's usually where some sort of cellular structure starts building from, be it drawn on or manipulated with spray paint, or how I primed my surface, or when I use stained wood, I'll start with a knot in the wood and build from there.
Yeah.
So it's all reflective of the natural starting point in a nature sense, I think.
So the random is the 0 point, or where you start, that this spot just because it's that spot.
Yeah, definitely in the past many years, it's knots in wood or wood grain guides very much starting points or flow of pieces. I stopped enjoying painting on canvas quite some time ago.
Yeah.
So,
So natural forms that you can integrate into or work with or from are way more entertaining for you.
absolutely.
Yeah, I jive with that.
Completely safe starting point, no overthinking. It just works for me.
One of the purple skateboard I did, I think
Mhm.
that you've seen,
Yeah.
the base layer of it is actually hardline traced where the wood grain is on that layer. So like the very bottom of that design is tracing the wood grain on the board itself. Yeah, that's where I
Yeah.
started.
Yeah, I did that for a while and then a lot of my pieces started by I like to paint on dark surfaces as well, so either darkly stained wood or all black.
We have that similarity in our
Yeah.
work.
We do. And for good reason when you're
Hmm.
using bright colors.
Yep.
I mean, why make it hard on yourself when you know the hacks?
Yeah.
So, but definitely when I used to spray paint a lot more, your art kind of evolves based on the space you're able to make it in.
Hmm.
And with two very, very needy cats and, certain materials not being able to used in small apartments or wherever you may be. So it also evolves with that. In a perfect world, I'd have too many options and then likely be paralyzed at that
Right.
point.
Yeah.
So I try to use all those types of parameters in my to ones that I don't have to think to start. But back to my point was manipulating spray paint and using it virtually improperly, but layering it over each other and letting it kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Congeal
Yeah.
almost. And using those as the nucleus for the cells that I'm building into this ethereal space in the with base with the spray paint.
Yeah.
So
How
I
it
was
interacts with itself before it dries and just kind of mingles.
that and then like the rest of the spray paint you can create, a cloud effect
Yeah.
and then you get the best of both worlds, the start of the cell in the environment I'm about to create itself into. So, because when you look at microscopic pictures of cancer cells and all sorts of cells that aren't good for us, they can be incredibly beautiful. And I was just trying to take solace in the fact that my dad's body was literally riddled with these oddly interesting looking
Bad things.
bad
Yeah.
things. You know what I
These
mean?
pretty and bad things. Yeah. The
Yeah.
dichotomy and the conflict there is entertaining in some aesthetically pleasing way. Yeah,
Yes.
it's an odd. So to level with you real quick, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 13. So I went through a similar scenario, like early teenage years. Here is mortality, blah, and
Mm.
then like how does one cope? So that whole like ethical moral conundrum kind of thing, like mortality and how do I live with this? That whole thing. Like I went through that too in a really formative age, and it informed a lot of my worldview and how it is to be a person. And it's a trip.
Yeah. And I mean, there's layers and layers to it as far as um making my art, becoming an artist and being raised by, a Vietnam vet who was a pilot and he was raised in a different world
Hmm.
than my soul and my brain exist in today and I've since realized I'm on this earth to help, you know, facilitate that world that I see to exist, but it's not the world I was raised in.
Mm-mm.
And it was quite the paradox to be wanting to succeed as an artist to make him proud as I was, he passed away before I graduated and so I wanted to make him proud, but I was also so riddled with the grief and the depression and you know um and that's really when my drinking got really heavy and so it all just is a
And you can't really separate. Like you can't compartmentalize these things because they're so innately tied together. as a scenario and factors in your whole life.
Right. And it's the same type of paradox of the beautifully ugly cancer cells.
Yeah.
Would my art and who I am be what it is had I not had that artist fuel by substances that, is a familiar story to many successful artists.
Mm.
And who knows? But I do know that I've taken everything that's led up to that now and, fortunately get to make art not fueled by those substances.
Yeah, you
So,
can. These things are deconstructible
yes,
as innately like together in a set of influences and environmental factors. You can take them apart and
right.
separate them and analyze them. So that was one of the things, like the appreciation for things as they are themselves and as they fit into the whole, I think is something that is really hard for a lot of people to learn. But sometimes life thrusts shit upon you that you have to do that, and you either do it or you don't. And somehow, hopefully, most people figure it out and become better, and some folks just kind of don't. And it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario, no matter what.
Absolutely.
And I think being alive, just in general, is really difficult. So then you add, society and being human and substances and all the things on top of that. It makes life really hard, and that's a mass oversimplification, and we both know this. But like, damn, being human is tough sometimes. So any retreat into some beauty or escapism is welcome if it's healthy.
Absolutely. And what a adventure it is to find
Healthy avenues of
healthy
escapism.
avenues of it, especially if you didn't realize that your avenues were unhealthy until far, far late into a simple habit change,
Yeah.
And yeah, life is it's hard being a human. And then throw in on top of that, we live in a world that success is defined by who you are and what you make. And um so not only the weight of the world, but to be out here trying to say I'm an artist
Yeah. Double
and
edged sword.
and to have gotten an art degree and then to have gotten a second one. Um and and in a world where you're told to do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And so I
that's
pursued my
it's a
passions and I was like,
double
oh,
edged sword.
fuck, you mean no one's literally ever going to hire me? Like,
Yeah.
maybe I misinterpreted what you were
So
implying.
so is that where the education comes in about teaching? Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I went back. UT offered a really great program where you could minor in art education when you're getting your bachelor's, and then with certain application processes being approved, you could move on to do your master's. And I did it in 3 semesters.
That's gnarly.
It was wild.
How many credit hours was that in a semester?
A lot.
Yeah,
I don't know.
more than you care to list or remember.
Yeah. I was
so
pretty. I was
so
pretty drunk the whole time
I was saying
too.
you had like no life this entire 3 semesters, right?
None.
Right.
And I was working at a bar in the neighborhood, and Lord knows I was seeing fish shows. So
Yeah, right.
I mean,
You sound busy.
I was busy, and I think I was. It was shortly after my dad died, and it was a kind of a.
Oh, so you just jumped in,
I jumped in.
feet first, deep end.
I jumped right in, and I did very well. I was a great student. I liked school, but I think back to that escapism,
Hmm.
my mind and you know the headspace that I've lived in since I was a teenager has been a very complicated place, a very dark place, and guilty for feeling in a dark place because on paper I grew up with all the love and all the things that I ever
Yeah, things people would wish for.
would. I mean, I people would so many people did not have the
Hmm.
things that I had growing up and the things that I still have because of the work that my parents put in for us, and I'm very grateful for that. And so I know I got my master's um, in some sort of guilt, or like I said, I was trying to prove something to him,
Yeah.
but I was in this dark place. I do not regret getting that, and I don't regret teaching art, but it was not my dream. It was not my career choice, but it was at a time where, I mean, damn, I went into college in 2008. That was, I remember the whole world was going like, there's no jobs. What are, but they were just sending us.
Yeah. It's like, here's college,
It's
go.
just what you do.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't know what you want to do?
There was a
Well,
pipeline, like an unspoken thing where it's like, if you don't want to work in a factory or do some bullshit, like, you're going to college. My
yeah.
dad drilled that into my head because he had factory jobs and all that kind of thing. Son, you're going to go to college and do this and do that. You ain't going to do what I did, blah, blah, blah. Like, those pressures are internal and external. Society was like, no, this is what you do. You go to college.
It was unthinkable. And it was a different time. I mean, in my short 34 years of life, I've seen the world change completely drastically. I mean, the last of the analog lifestyle, like how many people younger than some of us clearly remember life before internet and cell phones. I mean, they had the big cell phones, but there was no texting
Yeah.
and, and everything that's changed. And now, the creatives are stepping into their power, and I'm grateful to be here for it.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
I think people are appreciating handcrafted escapism into beauty now that the world has presented itself to be a very ugly, complicated place.
Yeah. And I think it only becomes more visible that it is an ugly, complicated place the more screens and silly people with loud voices that we get. It's ever increasingly in need of the beauty and the escapism the darker the world gets. And
Absolutely. I
that's
think that's a great point. And then to add to that, I enjoyed making some digital paintings when I first got my iPad and the pencil and everything, but I never really stuck with something I wanted to pursue getting much better at. However, I do know it's a complicated thing. You got to have digital content if you want to reach
mm-hmm.
the masses, but you can plug in AI art, and how do you know what art you're looking at? So the tangible hand painted piece of,
Yeah.
things that I make, and often I paint on thrifted items. So things that had a purpose. And the more that people are filling their spaces and homes and shops and offices and things that were created with intention to bring goodness and good energy, I don't think people give enough credit to how much that little, maybe you bought this $40 painting for me. I will never forget that probably came at a time where I needed $40
Yeah.
more than anything. I think it's a piece of shit painting, but I'm grateful that someone took it and it means the world to you. And then,
And now it adds beauty to your space wherever you got it at. And you got way more than your value, and I got what I needed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
So, the formal education. So, you got your BFA and your master's. Your BFA was in painting.
Mm-hmm.
And did you have any minors to go along with that, or was it
So
just
it was
painting?
like BFA, studio art, 2-dimensional art with a concentration in painting, I think is the longhand.
That's a mouthful for paint.
Yeah. And I think somewhere in there is a minor in art education.
And that was the avenue to the master's.
That was the avenue to the master's, the fast track. Then I got a master's in art education, and certified to teach K through 12 art. And right after that, I got a job teaching elementary art in Memphis.
Not Knoxville.
Not Knoxville. I was dating a guy from Memphis at the time, and I, again, was in a period of time where I was unsure. So when avenues presented themselves and they made sense, even just a little bit, I was just kind of following it. And I came back and I taught there for a while. And that was incredibly challenging.
And also informative to your life path.
Incredibly informative to my life path. That whole time, my life outside of my career and in the career, um, I learned a lot. I learned a whole lot. And I learned that as an adult, not just an angsty teenager, not just a college student who was trying to fit in an SEC world and trying to do the things that I saw all the people I grew up with doing and seemingly enjoying themselves. I couldn't figure out why it wasn't settling into
Yeah.
what felt natural and joyous to me. And, mind you, I've got an increasing addiction problem, manifesting itself like more and more. And so all those things at least shaped what I knew I didn't want anymore.
It's funny how that information is easier to find than the flip side of that information.
It is.
Yeah, damn it.
And it's like, I think it's because it seems too simple to follow what feels right.
Yeah.
And ultimately that's what my higher power, I believe, is just trying to show you what I've loved a crayon from the first time. It wasn't a decision. I didn't have to think about it. And, even my little brother, he knew he wanted to be a pilot from the second grade. And so I think, when you can follow that inner passion, but then again, throw in the societal parts about trying to be an artist, and you can't get an art and a business degree in the same sitting. So how do you become an artist and sell yourself?
Yeah.
We just want to hang in our room
And make
with our
stuff, make
noise
pretty
canceling headphones on and, But as far as teaching went, I struggled. Uh, I was teaching basically in inner city Memphis. People are always like, kids are hard. Well, children are innocent and they're products of their environment.
Yeah, at that age for sure.
So when you have bitter teachers raising children or teaching children being raised by bitter parents,
it's hard.
That's all under the umbrella of a bitter system underneath the bigger umbrella of a bitter government. What the fuck can I do?
Yeah.
And I certainly didn't get into it because I always wanted to be around children. I mean, children are hilarious, but fifth graders are mean.
Oh God, they're so mean.
And I had a lot of tears. And what's wild is in 2020, in about February, I had the relationship that I had mentioned had gone as many ways south as it could have, and I was trying to heal from that. And in February, I put in my formal resignation for the following school year. I was going to finish out spring of 2020. And about a week later,
the world turned upside down.
It sure did. And I had plans to travel that summer. I was going to go on the entire fish tour. I was going to network the fuck out of myself. I didn't really know, other than I knew I was following my heart and it felt right.
Yeah.
And I was so excited. And I was like, someone somewhere will need me for something. I am sure of it. And I really believed it. And
well, somewhere someone needed you to stay the fuck home. Just like everybody else.
Supposedly a lot of us did. Yeah. And that was some hard time.
It was uncertainty for everyone. I think that has probably been one of the craziest, wacky, most universal times of uncertainty for the world population. Like that was, whether people want to admit it or not, that was a unifying event like we haven't had in this century.
People were running around like chickens with their head cut off.
Especially the people
and
that
putting a mask on it to stop bleeding. I don't know what, but that was a hard time, and it was a really hard time to have any sort of resistance against what you were being told.
Mm-hmm.
But my stubborn ass was not quiet. And I think, a lot of people started making all sorts of crafts and art and everything. And I could
baking
not.
sourdough
Sour.
bread. Sourdough bread became more popular than any time in Western culture. Than there's no time sourdough bread was more popular than in the summer of 2020.
I know. We were like, keto diet? What the fuck? Get out of here.
I feel like everybody and their sister started baking during the pandemic.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had a hard time like being motivated to make art. I tried. Made
I think,
some stuff.
ironically, that was one of the most motivated times I ever had because my job ended up being deemed essential because I worked in quote unquote advertising. So, uh, between the time when shit hit the fan and I figured out that my employment was in an essential business, I had like 6 weeks at home to do nothing between when this information was questioned and when it was confirmed. I made like, let's see, that's 42 days. I made like 36 paintings in that 42-day stretch.
That's
I had
amazing.
something going on every day almost, which I felt super good about. And then I was like, oh fuck, where am I going to sell these? Everybody's stuck at home. And that's kind of why the podcast thing happened. But it was an odd contradiction of like, oh, I would love to show these. When can I show these? I can't show these. I don't know when I'm gonna show these. Nobody, the whole 9 yards, and it just sucked. But I was really proud of what I made, and I kept posting them on the internet. But like, I ain't gonna sell none of these to nobody because nobody's gonna see them in person and be like, yeah, I want that one. So it's just like I got all these things leaned up in the wall, like in the corner of the house. Like, damn.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a hard time. My
Well, that was that, and it still is one of my most my strongest coping mechanism. Like just working through things by diving into a canvas or a panel or something. Like when I suffer emotional turbulence, my productivity of art goes way up, and my social uh, proclivities go way down.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. I definitely relate to that.
it's it's one of those things. Hey man, I haven't talked to you in 6 weeks. Look at this painting. Yeah, that my a lot of my friends got a lot of that for like the 18-month stretch when shit was really tough around here.
Yeah,
So it's just like I'm
definitely.
alive. I'm just making a lot of stuff and trying not to die.
Right. I know it.
And you know what? I think one of the funniest things about sitting across from everyone that I've sat across from and having the privilege to talk to everybody, somehow the pandemic has been one of like I feel as if it has been mentioned in at least 3/4 of my episodes, and I think this one's going to be like 86 or 7.
Wow.
So most of these episodes have had that as some sort of catalyst in somebody's creative environment, and it's been ultimately fruitful. I think for most folks. I mean, obviously it sucked and we all suffered it, but how we handled that suffering in one way or the other catalyzed something.
Yeah. It was it was a weird way for my teaching career to end. That's not I didn't get to say bye to the kids. I had plans, with the ones that I had close relationships with, that, definitely some that didn't get love at home. And I don't know, it was I know in hindsight it all happened for a reason. And I know that it took me a long time to be okay with people saying, "Well, what are you going to do? You're not going to you can teach art. You will not catch me teaching in the public school system ever again. It's just not going to happen." But it has shown me that I definitely am a teacher, by nature. And as I've been working towards my yoga teacher training, and I finish up next weekend, and
Hey,
I'm so
congrats.
grateful because I mean, hell, my ability to start dreaming as an artist with other modalities that I can bring financial stability to myself is I'd love to paint every wall inside a yoga studio that I could have, and
Hmm.
be a place for people for that beautiful escapism on on all levels, mind, body, and spirit. And it's just been really great to step into my role as that. And yeah, the pandemic coinciding with me deciding to leave that career, not having to make that decision because of a health crisis, but it definitely confirming that it was the right move. It's all come together beautifully. My life has been, it went from a dark, chaotic place to uh, those dark and chaotic times being integral parts of the puzzle that ultimately is gonna be a beautiful final piece,
Hmm.
that is my masterpiece, that is my legacy that I want to leave. I want to leave something tangible behind that brings people joy. And I'm grateful that I've um, persevered through the mental turmoil that comes with being a creative person in this world, because I finally feel like I'm able to take pride in my work being worth something. So,
So, what do you have other physical practices outside of yoga? Like, do you exercise otherwise, or is yoga like your big physical focus?
yoga is my current, it's daily focus. I, up until last year, have played competitive soccer. So I played for 29 years. Um, I am not old, but I'm feeling too old for those co-ed soccer games. And um, so, I did go to a treatment facility this year for my drinking. And when I first got out, I was running every day. I didn't know what to do with my hands. I went and ran a couple miles. And due to the soccer, I got I've had some knee surgeries. And yeah, something about yoga. You're not doing it to be seen. It's not competitive.
Yeah.
That really fucks with me. I want to be the best
Oh, right,
at
because
everyone.
sports and competitiveness are a good driver for you, right?
Yeah,
So when
like
you're competing against yourself, and it's harder to like
yeah,
visualize that against someone, you know.
it's definitely teaching me to slow down. Breathing and embracing the pause has played into my life in every way. So yeah, that's yoga is my physical outlet. I do yoga. I have, my part-time job right now as I'm getting back on my feet this year. I try to make art when I can. It's not my primary focus right now, just I'm in a transition period, but I can't wait to get back to it. And yeah, yoga, art, AA, those are my little pillars that keep me going. And I'm grateful for it. I'm
Yeah.
grateful for the simplicity.
Oh, there's something to be. There are volumes to be spoken about simplicity and the luxury it provides.
Yes, and I am, I addicted to the chaos, and I was for a very long time, and it's just not, it doesn't work for me anymore. It
Yeah.
doesn't get me off anymore. I want to spend the rest of my time slowing down and embracing what I'm learning to be my role on this planet. And I know it involves some form of art making, some form of teaching, and some form of spreading how to be healthy, both through your mind and your body. And I'm getting a really good grip on all those things. And it's taken a long time to have the wherewithal and the self knowing and to come out of dark places from addiction and feel worthy of saying that I am something, I am someone, and I'm building something, and I want to help people. And
Mhm.
for a while I think it felt selfish just think that my beautiful paintings would help people, but I'm coming into a great knowing of how all these factors play into what I'm here to do with my time on this planet.
So, would you say that your yoga practice and your artistic practice feed off of each other in some way?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's all very interconnected. When you are in an awakened state to, consciousness and human connection and connection with the universe and how it's all tied together. It's so integral. It's hard to pick apart to explain what the commonalities
Right.
are. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I really think that that's a pretty good metaphor back to sort of what my art visually looks like.
Yeah,
So,
I do too. Now that you say that, yeah, definitely.
yeah.
But the I bring that up because one of my favorite angles to take at people in their creative practice is to figure out if and if it's a yes, how they achieve flow state or Zen mind, all that kind of thing in their creative practice. Now, obviously, that's a way more important thing in a person's yoga practice because that's part of it, a huge part of it. But I find uh, the easiest way for me to sit down and achieve this in my own head and with my body is that I can sit down with a pen and a pencil. Uh, and and part of I hope what people see in my work is that no matter what it looks like, whether it be chaotic or not, is that it took some sort of calm and concentration to create whatever it is on the canvas. And when I get neck deep into one of these pieces, and I come out of it and I'm just like, man, that was awesome. That flow felt so good. I'm so happy that this within me visualized as that on the canvas. And I hope somebody realizes that's what this feeling looks like. And, sometimes I get really sad when people are like, no, this is just a thing I mindfully do all the time. And, it's never blah, 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 Zen mode stuff. And I'm just like, damn. But that's still a healthful output for them. But it's always intriguing to me to find a mirror or a parallel in someone else's creative practice that is that flow state. So, where do you find that in yours?
I find that they're absolutely parallel. One of the key principles of yoga and modern yoga practices is that you can start from anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And same with art and with my ability to teach art. I've taught it. Oh, okay. I've taught at an elementary level. I've taught painting with a twist type classes.
Which is kind of why I really want you to get in on a cushion canvas
Oh,
someday.
I've been dying to. I've been dying to. So,
Well, it would be a huge compliment if you did. I would
yeah,
love it.
I absolutely want to. And, as far as the creative process goes, for people being scared of it, they just have to figure out. I don't know. I think everything that we're scared of, we've got to figure out what it's triggering, and it could
Oh,
be completely related to it or not. But
it's that's a like you gotta lean into that.
you really do. And that's my flow state comes from the fact that showing up and starting where you can,
That's
it's
a lot of the battle.
it's a lot of the battle. And man, I think the fluidity comes from, for me, being in a mildly peaceful state of mind. I mean, I overthink. I mean, I could win Olympic medals in
If overthinking was high jumping.
overthinking exercises, and um you know, I don't know what I'm trying to say other than I have to just go do it. You have to just go
Yeah.
do it. And the more you do it, the more you want to do it. And that's really the hardest thing. And is continuing until the momentum is so great that it's self-propelling at that point. And that's where I'm at with my yoga practice right now, and I look forward to bringing that back to my artistic practice, when I get settled back into a state of living that is conducive to it. I'm packing up my time in Knoxville and gonna go stay with my mom for a little bit and take some time to.
Is mom in Memphis?
She's in Memphis, yeah.
So you're gonna go back to West Tennessee?
Yes, it's, Memphis is Memphis, but it's family, and
What a nice thing to say about Memphis.
I don't know what else you say about it. I mean, it was great growing up there. But in a lot of more hissy fit state of minds, I've said, "Oh, I'll never go back." But I'm actually really looking forward to it. It's gonna be a really nice time of resting and planting seeds, and I know that a lot of art seeds are gonna get planted because I'm gonna have the time and the clarity and the rested state of being.
Which is something you've not had the luxury of,
I've
right?
That's
You've
very
never given yourself that.
unfamiliar to me.
Yeah.
Never. No, like I said, addicted to the chaos, and when things started to feel good, I knew it was going to go, so I basically sabotaged,
Yeah.
and that's not an uncommon trait
One of
in
those can't
humans.
get out of your own way kind of scenarios.
Absolutely. But this is the year, and 2024 was the year I took my power back. I took it back from alcohol, and I took it back from self hatred, which was fueled
Yeah.
by that substance. And yeah, I think it's great that I've gotten to spend the time getting into the yoga flow because of what it does for my brain. I'm so clear headed now
Hmm.
that when I can't, if I can't do something well, I don't want to do it. And that's why my art supplies aren't out right now.
Yeah.
Because I can't get into it and give it the time that I want while trying to give the other aspects of my life requiring that, focus and dedication. But it's all coming together.
Right. Well, you seem like you're really like you are very sure of the direction you are headed, and I'm super happy to see that. I mean, you and I have come into each other's social lives in the last what, like 6-9 months or so.
Yeah, since I got sober.
Yeah, and it's been really cool watching you get things together and be really confident in what you're trying to do for yourself. And I really appreciate you as your friend doing this for yourself, and I get the privilege to watch you do this, and I'm really happy about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That means a lot, and hearing those things means a lot. And to anyone listening, if there's people in your life that are in that kind of state, hearing it we all got to keep each other lifted. So
Yeah.
thank you so much,
You're
because
welcome.
it's nice to have the container to hear myself say that. I don't march outside my bedroom and say, like, I'm a talented painter and I'll teach you yoga. So it's great. I appreciate very much so being invited here.
Yeah. This this space that I've created to have these conversations has been insanely fruitful, and it is always a privilege to sit around and talk to people about their creative pursuits, which may not be directly related to art at all, but it has been a treat for me to share moments with people like yourself and every other guest I've had in front of that microphone. And there is not a single conversation that I've had that I've published all but I think two of them, because two of them have just been trash. But I have benefited from each and every one of these conversations in some way, and it's been so helpful just lending perspective to me as a creative person, and being somewhat selfless in a way that I do these things to share them, not for my own selfish. If I wanted to be selfish about this, we would just talk and not have the microphones, which would be fine because we could do that. But like, the selfless part of this is the fact that I do take the time to record and share these things, which I'm really proud of. And where am I going with this? It's a scenario that I feel is beneficial that I like to share, and without this space, these conversations wouldn't happen with the same intention. Like, otherwise, me and you'd just be sitting here shooting the shit and occasionally, like, have a serious note. But, like, we sat down with the intention to have a direct conversation about our creative practice and how it impacts our life and blah, 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 that kind of thing. So, the intention and the willfulness that people meet me with in this scenario has been golden. And I love it.
Yeah.
It's great.
No, it's great. It makes me want to have podcasts myself. And it's nice too, if we were sans microphone, just you and I, we'd be pulling up pictures and interrupting it with phone usage. And
Yeah,
it
there's.
really does. It takes away from having intentional conversations. And the past 6 to 8 months of my life, I'm 8 months and some days sober, have been from the first day that I stopped drinking, filled with intentional conversations without phone distractions and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So it's cool that's become such a more regular thing
Yeah,
in
and
my world.
it's been helpful for both of us, it seems,
Yeah,
because I've learned things I wouldn't learn about people that I respect that wouldn't facilitate, conversation. Those topics wouldn't have been broached without the intentionality of this conversation in the first place, and it's been
absolutely.
great.
Absolutely.
Um, I've met all sorts of lovely people,
I'm sure.
all sorts, and I've got to pick their brains about all sorts of things, and it's been really fun. So I'm going to try and keep doing it for as long as I have the energy to do it.
Yeah, I'm super grateful to have been a part of it.
Well, I think that I have two questions left that are relevant to the conversation, and I think we've already sort of answered one of them. That's like the "what's next? What are you working on?" kind of question. So, yoga, and you've got. You said you're becoming a certified yoga instructor next week.
Yeah,
Did I understand it?
I finish up my training with my yoga teacher training 200-hour next week, and then I'll have a handful of things to finish up, and then I will get my official certification. So I'm looking to start teaching classes, absolutely, and just taking some time to continue getting healthy as I finish out this first year of living my life without any alcohol in it, and being really just open to the possibilities of what can happen, and surrendering to that flow that fish speaks of, so surrendering to the flow while making active moves towards you know what can be foundations for the rest of a fruitful career. I decided when I had to make the choice to live my life in a very different way if I wanted to ever taste happiness, to stop playing small. And I'm gonna make it. I want to be like, oh, that's Mallory, that's an artist, and I've kind of joked with some people before. It's like, you don't look at that guy and say like, oh, that's George, he's so doctory, like, or like, like, oh, that's Linda, like she's very accounty. Like, you're like, that's she's an accountant, he's a doctor. That's Mallory, she's artsy.
Yeah.
She's that artsy chick, and it's like, let's call it what it is. I'm an artist.
Hmm.
And I think I used to get so like when people wouldn't, but I wasn't calling myself that. So
Yeah. So how
why
do
the
you?
fuck would you believe it if I'm not?
Yeah.
So hissy fits over. Embodiment has begun. Here I am. I'm Mallory. I'm an artist. I'm a Reiki practitioner. I'm a almost yoga teacher. I'm a person that wants to bring care and beauty to the world. And I have many ways of doing so, but they all start with taking care of myself.
Well, they have to. Yeah.
So,
Because you can't spread it if you can't live it.
and I hope that my art, eventually becomes, if you've gotten my art post recovery, post that journey starting, I hope it can maybe symbolize in somebody's home or office or wherever it may hang. Hey, that's a person that just really threw it all to the wind and said, I'm going to do better. And maybe it reminds people that they can too, with scary decisions and extreme commitment to changing your life. Because if you choose to, it happens really quick when you fully from the inside out commit to it. And I think I just realized that that's what I want my art to symbolize. And I don't have to go change this imagery. It just is, because
Yeah.
that's the intention put into it. It's literally coming from my heart through my hand to this thing that can be in someone else's home. So,
And the last question I usually ask is, since I don't know everybody around here that's be doing some creative stuff, who would you like to see in front of the microphone or listen to in a podcast in the future? So, who would you suggest I pursue as a future guest?
I would like to suggest my dear friend Natalie. Natalie Howington. She is an incredible painter, and she's kind of on a similar journey right now that I am.
Okay.
It's been cool to watch her grow, and her art is just flourishing right now, and she's got a lot of cool things to say about it. So
Well, if you will send me her contact information, I'll put a bug in her
I will.
ear.
I will. I'm gonna
Excellent. Excellent.
calling her out. So
All right. Well, one more on the fly question here. Um, you, adult, creative, artsy person now, if you could give any advice to like a 7-year-old Mallory, what would it be? Crickets.
damn. Um, you're more liked than you realize, and I don't know. That's a hard one. I guess it kind of paralyzed me.
That's not one
I
I put on people very often.
Yeah, I don't think I realized that people were attracted to my differentness because I didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes
I
sense.
just knew from a very early age that I was not perceiving the world around me the same as everyone else. And I could not reconcile that, and I'm still working on reconciling it. But there was no container or place to. I mean, what would you? There was nothing to say. I assumed it was on me,
Yeah,
and it's because I'm a cycle breaker. There wasn't precedent for a lot of the souls that are here on this earth right now. The world's changing.
true that.
You know, it's all different than it was when I was that age, and I was just being prepared to fit into my role now. It just was very weird doing that in the 90s.
Just a real roundabout way to get there in a time that wasn't ready for it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I kind of know that feeling. I grew up very not religious in a very religious place, so like that conflict was a lot. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
get
was
it.
part of it
I
too,
get it.
for
Yeah,
sure.
but Mallory, thank you so much for saying yes to this conversation and meeting me in my super secret studio and having a heartfelt, intentional, and warm conversation. I do greatly appreciate your openness.
Thank you.
This has been the latest episode of the KAAMP. Oh, oh my goodness. Please tell people where they can find you on the internet to look at your art and stuff.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
I almost forgot because we were having such a good conversation. But yes, please tell people where they can see your stuff.
Yes, my Instagram handle is it's YOU enjoy Mal. So you enjoy Mal, MAL. And I bought the website domain mallorycowan.com, and that's about as far as that has gone. So
Well, at least you have it.
one day maybe there will be some stuff on there. If anyone wants to help me, hit me up.
Well, everybody, there you go. You know where to find her. She may or may not have art for sale. You have art for sale right now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
always.
Okay. So if you want some of her reflective and transformative works, you can certainly acquire those from her. Please patronize, or please be a patron of her places on the internet, and if you so choose, uh, you know, give her some hard-earned cash because her art is awesome. I've seen it in person. I really enjoy it, and I know I'll end up with some of it eventually. So take it from me, it's good stuff. I really, really like it. But like I said, this has been the latest episode of the KAAMP, and my name is Thomas Zachary. If you would like to support the show, you can like, share, rate, subscribe, all that stuff that you are only like loosely obligated to do as a consumer. I would really like it if you did. It would make me, oh God, so happy. But at least listen, and a lot of you do, and I really appreciate that. So don't ever forget that. And then if you want to support my art and my artistic journey, you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook under TTW_artworks. Or you can come hang out with me in person and do art with me at my Cushion Canvas events that are hosted at the Holistic Connection downtown once a month. There won't be one for December because I'm going to take a break, but usually the other 11 months of the year they happen on a Friday night. So look out for that. Follow my Instagram, buy my artwork, put this shit in your friends' ears, even if they didn't ask. And I love you guys. I'll talk at you next time.